in 6 years, 4 times is what we're looking at. But this time around, what China has done is they have redrawn the boundaries, claiming territories that are not theirs as their own. This includes territories in India as well, including Aksai Chin and Arunachal, or parts of Taiwan. There are parts of the South China Sea as well that China has claimed is within its boundaries, something that it's not entitled to do. And China is being called out for exactly that. Let's take you across and show you what exactly these provocations are as far as Chinese side is concerned. We will be showing you how over the last 6 years, in the 6 years that we've seen in the years gone by, at least 4 provocations coming to the fore from the Chinese side. Like in April 2017, China has renamed 6 places in Arunachal Pradesh. They did so in an exercise right after the Dalai Lama visited India. What they did was, back then in 2021, they released the standardized names of 15 places. Again, renaming places that are not in their territory. They are not supposed to be doing this because it's not their territory, but they claim this is disputed area and they go ahead and rename these places. But India has been very, very clear that these places are within India's boundaries, within India's sovereign boundaries, and they will remain so. They were marked on the Chinese maps as South Tibet, parts of which were in India. April 2023, just this year, 11 places were renamed by China in Arunachal Pradesh. The list included towns that were very, very close to the capital city as well. This year, now this month, August 23, this is the latest provocation that's come to the fore. They've released the standardized map edition. This is the 2023 edition. It has several places that are included within China's boundaries that aren't China's to claim for. That includes Aksai Chin and parts of Arunachal Pradesh. But India is very clear that our stand is firm. Arunachal Pradesh, Aksai Chin are not disputed territories. They are well within India's territory and China should keep off. So let's take a look at what India's stand has been all through this entire controversy, not just this time around. India has made it very clear and that message has been sounded. Arunachal Pradesh is an integral part of India. There is no claim that can be staked to it. China is resorting to propaganda just ahead of G20. Remember, India is hosting the G20 summit next weekend. We're just 2 weeks away from that event and China clearly seems to be rattled. This map has been released after the BRICS meeting exposed the doublespeak of the Chinese administration. The expansionism agenda of China once again coming to the fore as they believe in illegally occupying territories. That is exactly what they're trying to do with this new standard map as well. Xi Jinping is facing a backlash over Uyghur Muslims, over the Tibet issues at the world level. Domestic as well, there are several issues that seem to be cornering the Xi Jinping administration, which is why we see this kind of provocation, these kind of mind games that come to the fore from the Chinese side. This is the latest that we are gathering for you here on CNN News 18. China's provocation is something that has come to the fore once again. Anand, my colleague, joining us, getting us the latest on this. Now these psyops, these mind games, Anand, that China plays ever so often, once again coming to the fore.
Yes, it is, Poonam. And what happens is that this is something that China has been following the footprints of Mao Zedong since 1949, right at the time when he had outlined and the PLA came to power, the CCP to control a 100-year blueprint. And that's when he had talked about the palm and the 5 fingers. And one of the fingers is Arunachal. So if Tibet is the palm, the rest of it are all sovereign Indian territory. And Arunachal has been a bone of contention for the CCP and the Chinese for a long time. Mind you, even in the past, one of our prime ministers desisted from going to Arunachal, but thereafter defied when India decided to give asylum to His Holiness the Dalai Lama and to champion the cause of the Tibetans. From then on, Arunachal has been a bone of contention. Arunachalis themselves have rejected the Chinese. That's another point of there, because they don't identify with the Han culture at all. Arunachali are totally Indian and follow the Indian ways just like the rest of the Northeast. But these have been perhaps the machinations of the CCP because their long-term plan of dominance, that they want to go back to the China that was more than about 300 to 400 years ago around the Ming dynasty. At that time, what was the spread? And that's the spread they want to take it back, go back to. So from Mao Zedong to Xi Jinping, even in 2023, this is something which Chinese adventurism continues. So when they put out a map like this, it's not just to try and create a certain amount of psyop or opportunism or to try and provoke India. but it is also outlining and reaffirming what their thought process is. They consider this as their territory. If the intelligence reports are to be believed, if they help the Pakistanis with the war chest and warplanes to try and totally sever off and cut off all of Bengal and the rest of the northeast with the agreement that Bengal becomes part of Pakistan during that time, during the 71 war, and integrated, and the rest of the northeast goes to the Chinese, it's a continuum, it's a thought continuum which the CCP has. India time and again has challenged this. This kind of map adventurism is not going to yield them any results, but more importantly, they may have had a dream and they may have a wish list and they may have a certain perception, but that perception need not always be reality. So they will not desist from it. It doesn't matter. For us, we just have to get a grip and move on and somewhere go back to China and say that, listen, we will not call this China. This whole policy of one China does not exist at all. Taiwan is Taiwan, Tibet is Tibet, and what you call Xinjiang or the new territory is actually East Turkestan, and that's what we will continue to call it. So as long as they continue with their map adventurism and they continue with what their perception is, we have to only underline what reality is and what the truth is.
Absolutely, because that expansionist agenda is not going to end and India just has to draw the line far more bolder. But thank you so much for that perspective, Anand. China will not learn, much like its fair brother ally Pakistan. They will continue to needle India, but India is not going to cower down anymore. That's the clear message that has been sent time and again. But let's tell you the inside story of why China is resorting to these mind games, to the psychological warfare. Because now what we're learning is that China is completely cornered from all sides. We've heard how their economic distress is only piling on. The kind of pressure that China feels on the world stage is only escalating. We saw that at BRICS as the G20 countries convene here in India. That's going to continue. Now, as per sources within the government in exile in Tibet, CNN News 18 has learned that China is facing a huge internal crisis. Their COVID-0 policy has completely backfired, which has resulted in the economic crisis, the economic issues that they are facing. That is only surmounting with the kind of unemployment that we're seeing, the kind of loan repayments that they're defaulting on. Major real estate giants there in China going under, filing for bankruptcy. All of that is taking place here. So let's take a look at what exactly we've gathered from our sources within this government in exile in Tibet, because even the United Nations now is raising this issue. Several of the rapporteurs of the UN have now penned a letter which we've accessed here on CNN News 18. This is the exclusive input our investigations editor Manoj Gupta has got for us. This is what that letter speaks of. This is what we've got gathered from our sources. The Tibetan culture is treated as inferior and backward, which is why China is making all attempts to suppress it. The aim to bring communities under Chinese influence is only now growing as far as the Tibetan region is concerned. This is a campaign to assimilate the Tibetan culture and language into the Chinese culture. They want to ensure that there's absolutely no sign left of the Tibetan culture or the language. The attempt is to promote the Tibetan culture that exactly is being suppressed. This is how China is furthering its expansionist agenda. The advocates of the Tibetan education are now being detained and tortured. So the only way of education that is being pushed forth is the Chinese way. Children are being denied education on Tibetan history, on Tibetan culture. It's like they want to wipe out their entire sign altogether. Kids are forced to complete curriculum in the language and the method which is being taught in most parts of China, which is exactly what now they're trying to do. This is something that has been raised at the level of the United Nations as well. Rapporteurs of the UN who are talking about religious freedom, who are talking about free speech, are talking about human rights, have raised this exact issue time and again. Tibetan schools that are located in rural areas are also shut down, is what we're learning. This is what the letters go on to quote. Some Tibetan schools have subsumed into Chinese schools altogether. So there is no sign left of these schools, of the kind of education that they're imparting to the people there, because China believes and China wants the world to believe that this is Chinese territory. All that will happen there is what China wants to run. But we have spoken to some of the members of parliament of this government in exile in Tibet. Listen in to what they had to say.
सर, आपसे ये जानना चाहेंगे कि चाइना की तरफ से जो प्रोवोकेशंस अभी भी हो रही हैं और आज फिर वो जो मैप निकाला गया है उसमें अरुणाचल प्रदेश, ताइवान को उन्होंने अपना हिस्सा बनाया है, तो कैसे देखते हैं आप?
जी, जो विस्तार नीति का जो पॉलिसी चीन का है, ये नया कोई नहीं है। ये है इट वाज स्टार्टेड, शुरू हुआ है कि 1949 जब चीन का कम्युनिस्ट इंसेप्शन हुआ था, उससे से शुरू हुआ। उसी के साथ में 1959 में तिब्बत को कब्जा किया था। तो 1954 में उसी की व्यवस्था नीति का वजह से इवन आफ्टर और इंडियन का साथ 5 साल का टीटी रखा है, फिर भी इसी पॉलिसी की वजह से 1962 को चीन ने भारत के ऊपर आक्रमण किया। तो इसी के अलावा अभी बार बार ये प्रवोक करते रहा कि अरुणाचल हमारा है, वो फलाना हमारा, ये हमारा, इससे करके ये बोलते रहता। अभी तक हमारा बॉर्डर के बीच में भारत और चीन के बीच में बहुत वार्ता हुआ था, लेकिन कभी भी हाल नहीं होगा, क्योंकि ये कभी नहीं होगा, क्योंकि चीन और भारत के बीच में कोई बॉर्डर नहीं है। बॉर्डर तब से बनाया जब चीन ने तिब्बत को ऑक्युपाइड किया, कब्जा किया, तब से चीन और भारत का बीच में बॉर्डर बनाया। उसका पहला 1 इंच भी चीन और भारत का बीच में बॉर्डर नहीं पड़ता था।
कि जिस तरह से चाइना लगातार भारत की तरफ भी ऐसा ये कह रहा है कि अरुणाचल प्रदेश भी उसका हिस्सा है। आप तिब्बत के हैं, तो आपको क्या लगता है कि जो तिब्बत का पर जो उसका गैरकानूनी कब्जा है, उसको कैसे देखते हैं कि कितना, और आपको लगता है कि कठिन है उसको हटाना?
वो नंग चाटा के नेतांग को दे हल लेवा के चाटा उछा दे रे ताती छाला ता बहुत ही जामी के समझ कितों को जंगा जो आगन जी तादा बात जामी के लो रे जिन बोनाला अने खोरियो को लाइना रे chude rawang ko laina re ro me thoptang ko laina re changma doro tang jin kandar ngosa theme jin bonang mi de zo nin chonan chema choba ne tang cha ta bu de ji cha jin dada ba de boba ge ni mi lo chung chung de zo sam lo yong khen lo chung yong khen de zo ina yang rang le me se me ja da ngap ju ha da nga so ha ko ye de de rang le me se tang cha wa re bonang tang a ka se yo ba de zo ha ko de ge re
ये गुरुजी बोल रहे हैं, ये 2000 में तिब्बत से आया था। जब 20 साल था वो तिब्बत से आया था, अभी 13 साल हो गया। तो जो इसने आप देखा था, तिब्बत में देखा था, जो अत्याचार रिलीजियस के ऊपर, जो इकोलॉजी के ऊपर, जो धर्म का ऊपर, जो जैसा गुरु बनना चाहता है तो उसको गुरु बनने के लिए लिमिटेशन है कि आप गुरु इतना बनना सकता है, इतना आप तिब्बती भाषा नहीं पढ़ सकता है। तो इसी तरह का ह्यूमन राइट्स वॉल्यूशन है, सब कुछ है। इसी की वजह से अभी तक 2009 से अभी तक कोई जवान तिब्बती लड़का लड़की लोग 150 से ज्यादा लोगों ने आत्महत्या कर दिया है। तो अगर जो जवान पढ़ा लिखा जो है वो चीन के अंदर जन्म, चीन के रीजन के अंदर जन्म हुआ था, उन लोगों को अपना आत्महत्या सेल्फ एलिमिनेशन क्यों करेगा? क्योंकि चाइना का पॉलिसी ठीक ना, उनका अत्याचार से नहीं पाया, उसी की वजह से करीब 160 लोग ने सेल्फ एलिमिनेशन किया था।
चीन का जो विस्तारवाद है वो लगातार बढ़ रहा है। शी जिनपिंग के आने के बाद उसमें ज्यादा बढ़ोतरी हुई है। तो ऐसे में आपको लगता है कि जो तिब्बत का जो मसला है, किस तरह के कदम उठाए जाने चाहिए इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे ताकि चाइना को रोका जा सके?
ये ऐसे है कि अभी जो चीन इधर G20 में शामिल होने से पहले ही हो गया, पहले से अभी मैप के बारे में बोलना शुरू हो गया ना। वो अभी जो सिट करके मसला जो है ठीक करने का नहीं सोचे, पीछे कुछ ना कुछ प्लान्स चल रहा है उनका, है ना। उसको भरोसा करना बड़ा मुश्किल है। अभी जो तिब्बत जो है वो पूरा सबसे दुनिया से सबसे ऊपर हाईएस्ट प्लेटू इन द वर्ल्ड, इज कॉल्ड द रूफ ऑफ द वर्ल्ड। उधर में जो हमारा तिब्बती है 6 मिलियन टिबेटन्स है, उसको ऑलरेडी 1959 में कब्जा कर लिया है और अंडर सप्रेस है, सप्रेस उनका मिलिट्री में सप्रेस हो के हम लोग सब ऐसे फ्रीडम नहीं है उधर। और चीन लोग ने अभी क्या कर रहे हैं, तिब्बत छोड़ के पूरा दुनिया के साउथ ईस्ट एशिया है ना, उसका नेबर्स, उधर सबको कब्जा करना, एक्सपेंशनिस्ट पॉलिसी इनके माइंड में जो है वो तो अभी वो लोग वो कर रहे हैं, कोशिश कर रहे हैं वो सब। और हमारे तिब्बत का 2 अभी जो चल रहा है प्लान्स उनका, चाइनीज का तिब्बतन आइडेंटिटी को इरेडिकेट करने का, वो 2 चल रहा है, वो बहुत बहुत खतरा है।
प्रधानमंत्री ने देखना चाहिए। अभी ब्रिक्स में गए थे तो चाइना के प्रीमियर को मिलकर आए हैं, गले लगाए हैं हमेशा की तरह, और उसके बाद इस चाइना का मैप आता है। तो ये सवाल जो है उनको पूछना चाहिए, आपको कैसा लगता है? हमको हमारा तो दिल टूट जाता है देखकर। राहुल गांधी ने जो बात कही है वो सच है कि लद्दाख में पेंगोंग वैली तक चाइना घुस गया है, हमारी ज़मीन चाइना ने खा ली है। ये राहुल गांधी की बात सच है, हमको भी मालूम है। अरुणाचल में चाइना घुसने की कोशिश करते हैं। करो सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक, हिम्मत है तो चाइना पर, हिम्मत है तो चाइना पर सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक करके दिखाइए।
The fact that the frontier in the western sector was undemarcated, these myths which the BJP keeps running, that Nehru gave up 38,000 square kilometers to China, is historically absolutely incorrect. Only an intellectually challenged person can make such a obnoxious claim. To sum it up, so therefore the Chinese maps are preposterous. They are not in sync with the history of the Sino-Indian border dispute. China has no claim whatsoever on Arunachal Pradesh. The border in the eastern sector is the McMahon line, which has been recognized since 1913.
Now to breaking news coming in, and politics has erupted over Centre's decision to cut rates of the LPG cylinder. Remember, 200% rate cut has come to the fore, both for non-subsidy beneficiaries and for the Ujjwala scheme beneficiaries. TMC, Mamata Banerjee, is the latest one to wade in as the political fight is only escalating. Mamata Banerjee going on to say that it's just been 2 months and 2 meetings of the opposition alliance and the government is already rattled, which is why we're seeing this kind of rate cut coming to the fore. Arunima, my colleague, joining us, getting us more details on this. Arunima, this was on expected lines that the opposition would say that this is only because we are nearing election season.
Yes, and not obviously, because in the past also inflation and price rise has been the soft spot of any government in power. If price rise is happening, if inflation is happening, then it does affect the sentiment of the voters. And that is exactly what Mamata Banerjee through this tweet is underlining. That because elections are around the corner, because the opposition is coming together, and we have seen in Karnataka specifically how the welfare schemes that were announced by the Congress before elections happened, Congress believes those played a huge role in getting them back to power. The Bharatiya Janata Party says this is freebie politics, this is not sustainable, but Mamata Banerjee scoring that point on behalf of opposition, saying that because of the counter politics that we have provided in the India front, India has been forced to announce this rate cut as far as Ujjwala Yojana LPG cylinders are concerned.
Right, Arunima, do stay on with me. Bengal BJP Chief Sukanta Majumdar now joining us on the broadcast. So thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Your first response to what Mamata Banerjee has said. She says that the BJP and the NDA is completely rattled because of the opposition alliance, which is why we're now seeing this rate cut in cylinder price.
See, the Mamata Banerjee has a unique virtue that she can take credit of any good thing that is happening in this universe, not in the world, not in this country only, whole universe. She is able to take the credit of that kind of good thing. So, Mamata Banerjee has taken the credit of this good decision taken by the Narendra Modi ji also. First, let them fix any common answer or common reply to this action. Because Mamata Banerjee is saying one thing, Congress is saying one thing. So this is the situation of our opposition and they are not even united in one statement. So that's why whatever Mamata Banerjee is saying, it is quite a political statement from the Mamata Banerjee. We will handle it politically, and not only this statement, for few weeks we are getting the entertainment from our Chief Minister. First of all, she has sent Rakesh Roshan ji, the Hrithik Roshan's fathers, to the moon, then Indira ji to the moon, and recently she has also stated that Mahabharata has been written by the Qazi Nazrul Islam. So this kind of Kapil Sharma show is going on in the state of West Bengal. So another statement is coming. It's okay. We are taking this in that account only.
So this is just political, needless politicking by the opposition, like Mamata Banerjee. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Majumdar? And that the decision that has been taken by the central government has absolutely no political intent to it?
See, the political party ruling the government will take the decision according to the need of the country. And obviously in that decision, the political benefit, everybody has the right to propagate their agenda, propagate their party. So obviously the political party will take the decision in favor of them. So as our party from the beginning has stated that this Modi ji's government is totally dedicated for the poor people of this country. So that's why the Adaniya Pradhan Mantri ji have taken this decision, and this is a very good and bold decision, and it will help the poor people and middle class people of this country.
Right, Mr. Majumdar, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. It's not just the opposition that is chiming in. Reactions coming in thick and fast. The BJP also hailing this decision that's come to the fore from the central government. Union Minister G. Kishan Reddy is the latest one who says that this is a big relief for the poor in this country, for the middle class. It is a gift in festival season. It is Raksha Bandhan tomorrow. Onam is being celebrated today, and that is exactly the reason why this decision has come to the fore, is what the BJP says. We'll try and get you that reaction coming in from G. Kishan Reddy, Union Minister. On this, we've heard from several other ministers as well who are hailing this decision. Let's listen in to what G. Kishan Reddy had to say.
किशन जी, जो आज सरकार ने अनाउंसमेंट किया है कि 200 रुपए जो एलपीजी के कम हो रहे हैं, इसके ये कितना मायने रखता है खास करके गृहिणियों के लिए, और खास करके क्योंकि रक्षाबंधन आ रहा है?
आपको मालूम है, पहले भी आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी जो पेट्रोलियम के ऊपर भी केंद्र सरकार की तरफ से रेट कम किया है, और कम करते हुए हर स्टेट गवर्नमेंट से भी अनुरोध किए थे, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट भी थोड़ा कम करना चाहिए। आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का अनुरोध पर वो स्वयं कम करते हुए स्टेट गवर्नमेंट से अनुरोध करने के बाद स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स भी पेट्रोलियम चार्ज बढ़ाए, कम किया है। और ऐसा ही आज कल राखी पूर्णिमा है, देश में महिलाओं के लिए बहुत बड़ा त्यौहार है। इस त्यौहार के संदर्भ में आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी राखी पूर्णिमा क्या गिफ्ट के द्वारा आज हर सिलेंडर के ऊपर 200 रुपए कम करके महिलाओं के लिए थोड़ा सुविधा किया है। मैं देश की महिलाओं की ओर से आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी को धन्यवाद देता हूं। इस 200 रुपए एट ए टाइम कम करना देश की महिलाओं के लिए, मिडिल क्लास के लिए, गरीबों के लिए बहुत रिलीफ है।
विपक्ष वाले लोग कह रहे हैं, बहुत सारे लोग कह रहे हैं कि आपने ये इसलिए किया क्योंकि आने वाले समय में 4 राज्यों में इलेक्शन है। तेलंगाना जहां के आप प्रभारी अध्यक्ष है, वहां पे भी इलेक्शन को देखते हुए आपकी सरकार ने
इलेक्शन कब नहीं है बताइए? कोई 3 महीने के अंदर कोई इलेक्शन नहीं आया, ऐसा कोई स्टेट है क्या? देश में किधर किधर कुछ इलेक्शंस होते रहते हैं। इतना बड़ा देश में, इतना बड़ा पॉपुलेशन में, इतने बड़े प्रांतों में इलेक्शंस होते रहते हैं। इस निर्णय को इलेक्शन को कोई संबंध नहीं। महिलाओं को राखी पूर्णिमा के संदर्भ में रिलीफ देने के लिए आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी निर्णय किया है।
Highlight the fact that in 2009-10, the Manmohan Singh government had taken out 1 lakh crore rupees oil bonds and had then proclaimed that this is a burden that the generations to come will have to pay for. Now the Modi government by 2026 with interest will pay close to 3 lakh crore rupees. And as far as post-COVID, Modi government has ensured that 80 crore of our citizens get free food supply and support. Now with this, I think the purchasing power, especially of those who are economically challenged, will be sustained, and this is a very big step to ensure that there is a balanced and yet a progressive outlook towards economy.
Last question, ma'am. Many would say that since elections are around, therefore this decision is taken.
So if that is how decisions are taken, one must introspect, especially on behalf of the opposition, that in January 2014, the price of cylinders was almost double the price now. Why is it that the Congress-led UPA then had enhanced the prices of gas cylinders just before elections? Who was to benefit then?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was Union Minister Smriti Irani talking to CNN News 18 with camera person Arun Dhanta.
Arun Dhanta, my colleague, now joining us for more perspective on this. Now, Arun, it's on expected lines, the kind of reactions that we're seeing from the opposition, but the central government, the BJP, insists that this is a decision that is only meant for the welfare of the poor, of the economically challenged, and has absolutely no political motive to it. But it also comes at a time when we've seen the kind of ante that the BJP, the Prime Minister himself, has had over the amount of money that is earmarked for freebies and such schemes. At such a time, the government has gone ahead with a scheme that has an outlay of over 7,500 crore rupees. So the opposition is bound to question that.
Well, see, this of course will have impact on the government exchequer, because the relief of this kind, where you will be giving relief of 400 under the Ujjwala scheme, and then for the normal users around 200 rupees. This is something which is going to be a big chunk which will come out from the center exchequer. But now, as we spoke to the union minister, they are saying that it was in the pipeline for them. What is important is the benefit of the people of this country, especially those backward people who falls under the Ujjwala scheme, and therefore they've been planning this. And in fact, when I asked him about the opposition parties are raising questions on this decision. They are saying that this is what they have been demanding from the Modi government. They haven't done it now when they are feeling the heat of the elections. Therefore, they have done this. So Smriti Irani in this regard said that even in the tenure of Manmohan Singh, they were taken few decisions during the election time. So it is not something which is related to the election. It is something which government has thought which is need of the hour, and therefore this decision is taken to give relief to the people of the country.
Right, Arun, stay on with me. TMC's Member of Parliament Shantanu Sen now joining us on the broadcast. So thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Your first reaction to this rate cut that has come to the fore in terms of LPG cylinders for both the Ujjwala scheme beneficiaries and otherwise?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
You must recall the price of cylinder was 400 rupees when this BJP came into power in 2014. And you must recall before the UP election, for a month or two, the price hike was stalled. And immediately after the election, even before the declaration of the result, even before the declaration of the result, price rise took place for the petrol and diesel is concerned. And even more, when the crude oil price decreases globally, even then the price hike takes place in our India so far the petrol and diesel price is concerned. It has been proved that government, if they were having any good intention for the people at large, they could have done much more. But it's utterly a political gimmick before the election that's going to take place in 5 states. And they are really scared, as our party supremo, Madam Mamata Banerjee has said, that there are only 2 India alliance meetings, price gone down by 200 rupees. More the number of meetings, more the price will be going down as is believed. It proves that BJP is scared, and it also proves that BJP, if they would have wanted to do it, they could have done it much earlier, and the price should have gone even much less.
But Shantanu Sen, the centre and the BJP says that the decision was in the works for a long time. It's not a spur-of-the-moment decision. Obviously, these things take time to work out, which is why it's come now. And that elections are happening at some point of the year and every year in some state or the other. So it cannot be linked to elections. How do you respond to that?
It has to be linked with the election. We must recall once again that before the UP election, there was no price rise for price hike for 2 months. Immediately after the election was over, even before the declaration of the result, price rise took place. Can BJP deny the same? Everything BJP does, it has got a link with the election, because they don't know anything other than election politics, other than group politics, other than politics by playing religion card of casteism, and everything they do, they have an intention of political intention at the back of their mind.
Sure, Shantanu Sen, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. The opposition not ready to buy the government's argument there. This is only setting the stage for more fireworks in the run-up to elections and in the run-up to the India Alliance meeting that is going to take place in just a few days from now in Mumbai. But opposition parties now reacting. Let's listen into a reaction coming to the fore from the Congress as well.
एक तो अनुराग ठाकुर जी प्राइम मिनिस्टर को शर्मिंदा क्यों करा रहे हैं? राजस्थान में तो हम 500 रुपए में दे रहे हैं, 200 रुपए का मतलब 900 रुपए प्रति सिलेंडर। अब अनुराग ठाकुर जी जानबूझ के प्रधानमंत्री जी को क्या बदनाम करने के लिए इस तरह का ऐलान कर रहे हैं? कम से कम प्रधानमंत्री को बता दे कि कांग्रेस शासित प्रदेश में जो है 500 रुपए मिल रहे हैं, और मोदी जी जो है उज्ज्वला योजना वाले कोई, ऐसा नहीं है कि सबको मिल रहा है। अगर आप देखिए, अनुराग ठाकुर जी ने बड़ा ऐलान कर दिया, लेकिन अगर आप ध्यान से पढ़िएगा तो सिर्फ बीपीएल वाले के लिए है।
That political fight will heat up, and we'll keep a track of that here on CNN News 18. That and much more coming up on the other side of a quick break. Do stay tuned.
The thing of concern wherever Chinese territory is goes along with other countries.
Abhishek, now when it comes to this, can we also expect India to respond, or is it likely that this will be ignored?
There will be, of course, a response, but there has been always a standard reply that Chinese claims does not mean that these lands will belong to Chinese side, because de facto position is that there is a Indian government, there is Indian territory, there are religious people of Indian nationality living. The territorial claim and exploration of all the revenues are being deposited in the Indian treasury. So clearly, those territory belongs to India, no matter how much claims China does, and no matter how many villages China tries to change names of. But it also tells the kind of aggressive posting that China will continue to have on the issues of territorial claims in Arunachal Pradesh and Aksai Chin and other parts of other sides of its border. And this is a concern, because when you talk about rules-based order, when you talk about respect to sovereignty and territorial integrity of other nations, that clearly China is a nation which does not want to do that. It does not want a mutual respect for the boundaries and the sovereign territory of each other, and it wants to create a kind of dispute over the territories, which we have already been seeing in what is happening in Western Ladakh. That has also been the reason why China-India bilateral ties have gone downwards. And we were hoping that after the meeting of Prime Minister Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Africa's Johannesburg, there would be some improvement in the bilateral ties. But with the latest map that also shows Arunachal Pradesh as part of China, it doesn't look like China has been in mood of having a mutual respect or an improvement of bilateral ties with India.
Now, doesn't this also mean that the meeting, when it comes to the one that took place at the BRICS summit on the sidelines of it between China's President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi, one very big important point that came out from that was the fact that Prime Minister Modi emphasized the fact that there will be no normal ties between the two nations until the situation at the border is normal. Now, China releasing this map after that, how exactly does this bode for ties between the two nations?
You see, Aisha, we are talking about in Western Ladakh, we are talking about a territory which was still not very marked well. It was, both the sides have some sort of agreement that there were some perception, some difference of perception, because the actual line of control has not been marked ever since the independence of India. But in the case of Arunachal Pradesh, there is no difference of perception. It is clearly a land that belongs to India, and India has a sovereign right over it. And China, with the repeated claims on certain parts of Arunachal Pradesh and saying that it is an extended territory of South Tibet, is something that it wants to keep dispute alive, so that in future, maybe 50 years down the line, it can always show that, okay, this land has never been a sovereign territory of India, and it was always a disputed land. So these disputes are, they are alive, and they are made to be alive always by the Chinese side in order to have a claim in the future. So this is what the Chinese statecraft has been, and this is what they are trying to do in Ladakh also, where they have kind of sat on position where the common petroleum points were, and now they would probably, in few years down the line, they would claim that these territory already belong to China, and now you can negotiate for the petroleum rights for the territories further from it. So this is how the Chinese nibbling theory of territory of other nations has been, and probably this time also with the latest map that China has released, they are trying to do that. But probably this is not going to go down well, and we can assume that there will be a reaction from the Indian side or the Minister of External Affairs of the issue of China's latest map that shows Aksai Chin and Arunachal Pradesh as part of its own territory.
Now, on Monday, China officially released the 2023 edition of its standard map, incorporating the disputed areas, including its claims over Arunachal Pradesh, Aksai Chin region, Taiwan, and the disputed South China Sea. India has repeatedly said that the state of Arunachal Pradesh has always been and will always be an integral part of the country. Now remember, this also follows recent attempts by China to rename India's Arunachal Pradesh, specifically particular areas within it. Now this is about a new map that China has also released, and we're also showing you the visuals of this new map that's been released by China, which is again talking about different territorial claims that China claims to have. But remember, this also comes in the backdrop of the fact that China has been trying to rename parts of Arunachal Pradesh, but India remains strong and firm on its stand with the fact that Arunachal Pradesh will be and always will be an integral part of the country. Now we're crossing over to CNN News 18's Foreign Affairs correspondent Abhishek Jha, who's joining us live to get us more details on this. Abhishek, tell us more about the fact that China's released this map. Tell us more about the areas that they've included in it. What exactly can our viewers understand from this new map?
Welcome back. You're watching Nation at 5 with me, Poonam Burde. Let's now take you through a controversy that is brewing over Prime Minister Modi's visit to ISRO. Remember, right after landing from Greece on Saturday, he went to laud the scientists at ISRO for the success of Chandrayaan-3 mission. Now we have Jairam Ramesh of the Congress Party and many others within the party who've come out and drawn a comparison to what happened when Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister and she was in Sriharikota during the launch of a PSLV satellite. He has tweeted a picture of Indira Gandhi with the then Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, N.T. Ramarao. The comparison being drawn of how back then, Indira Gandhi invited the Chief Minister, but this time around, when Prime Minister Modi went to ISRO, he did not invite the Chief Minister of Karnataka, Siddaramaiah, or even the Deputy Chief Minister. This is something that had triggered a political war of words between the two parties. Remember, all through the weekend, we had seen the Congress raise questions over this. Both the Chief Minister and the Deputy Chief Minister had come out and reacted. The Prime Minister himself, in fact, had also spoken about this while he was talking to the scientists there. He said it was too early in the morning and I did not want to disturb the Chief Minister or the Deputy there, which is why we did not want them to come and meet us at the airport. But clearly, despite that, the controversy has not been nipped in the bud. Pallavi, my colleague, joining us, getting us more perspective on this. Pallavi, ever since we've seen Chandrayaan-3's successful landing, one issue or the other, politics has continued to erupt over it. Now another front being opened up by Congress's Jairam Ramesh.
Oh yes, absolutely. And this was an early morning tweet which really came in from Jairam Ramesh, where what he talked about was the fact that even when Indira Gandhi did not have good equations with the then Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister N.T. Ramarao, she still had invited him for the launch of the SLV-3 in Sriharikota. So what the point that Congress is trying to make is that you have to be gracious when you are in power. The potshot, of course, is taken in the backdrop of the fact that both the Karnataka Chief Minister and the Deputy CM were actually not called when the Prime Minister had landed in Bengaluru from Greece when he wanted to felicitate the ISRO scientists as well as the chairperson. Of course, it has also evoked equally strong reactions coming in from the government and from the BJP as well, saying that if we remember the number of occasions when the Congress government at the centre disrespected the state governments. In fact, if we are going to talk about specifically Andhra Pradesh, N.T. Ramarao's government was dismissed arbitrarily by the Congress government at the centre. So as far as the BJP is concerned, certainly not going to be on a back foot on this, but as far as the Congress party is concerned, repeatedly making the point that the Prime Minister was being very churlish when he decided not to invite the Karnataka Chief Minister and the Deputy CM.
Right, it was something that came up during the Prime Minister's speech at ISRO as well. Remember when he was addressing the scientists there, he did speak of how this really wasn't a breach of protocol, but he just didn't want to inconvenience the Chief Minister and the Deputy Chief Minister. We thought that the issue had ended there, but clearly not, because it's coming back up 3 days later.
Well, what Jairam Ramesh also suggested was that the reason why the Prime Minister didn't invite the CM and Deputy CM is because he's upset with them for having met up with the ISRO scientists even before the Prime Minister could have met. But I think the PM addressed this point very directly when he landed in Bengaluru, and he said he didn't want to inconvenience both the CM as well as the Deputy CM, because if you remember, he landed at very early wee hours of the morning, and therefore he said, this is not something which I want to do. I don't need to have that kind of protocol at the airport. I've just come here to congratulate the entire team, and therefore it is not important for me to be greeted by the CM and the Deputy CM.
Right, Pallavi, so far we've had the Congress come out and make this comment. In fact, it's just Jairam Ramesh. But is this sentiment shared by others within the Congress party as well? We've seen the kind of politics otherwise that has taken place on this issue. But as far as the invitation to the Chief Minister or to his deputy is concerned, is that something that others within the Congress party have also raised?
Well, Jairam Ramesh is the head of the media department, so his voice essentially becomes the official voice of the Congress, and also something which reflects the point of view within the party. I'm sure he wouldn't have said this without having got the nod from the top, whether it's the Congress president, Mr. Kharge, or whether it's Rahul Gandhi or Priyanka Gandhi Vadra. So I did notice a large number of Congress leaders agreeing with what Jairam Ramesh had said. In fact, they've started coming out with memes, they've been coming out with animation pictures to make the point that the Prime Minister is very insecure, and that's the reason why he doesn't want to follow this kind of a protocol.
Right, Pallavi, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that controversy. For now, we are shifting focus to news coming in, and distressing one at that from Kota. Unfortunately, over the last 48 hours, we've heard of 2 students dying by suicide, all of which is at these coaching institutes that that are a hub in Kota. We've seen several such instances, unfortunately, come to the fore. 23 at last count in just this year, in the last 8 months. The state government has now formed a committee to look into these issues. 15-day deadline has been set by the Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot, so that solutions can be come up with, so that we can avoid any such instances happening in the future. But we have several ministers within the Rajasthan government that have come up with several reasons of why this is exactly happening. Listen in to some of those political reactions.
और मैंने कमेटी बनाई 15 दिन रिपोर्ट देने के लिए, अभी 5 दिन हुए उसको। जब रिपोर्ट आ रहा है हमारे पास, हम खुद बहुत ही चिंतित भी है, दुखी भी है। आज ही खबर है 2 बच्चों की आप कह रहे हो, और 3 बच्चा बाहर का भी है, वो भी इंस्टीट्यूट और भी हो रहे हैं। तो ये जो स्थिति है, बहुत ही मैं समझता हूँ कि चिंताजनक है।
Hi, we are in Kota at a tea shop where students are taking some time out from their studies just to get a break. We'll now talk to the students about how their experience has been here.
Actually ये होता है, जैसे पेरेंट्स को चाहिए कि अगर बच्चे के नंबर कम हुए तो उसको जाने कि ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है, थोड़ा सा उससे समझे।
तो मतलब जैसे आपस में स्टूडेंट्स कभी स्ट्रेस्ड आउट हो जाते हैं तो आप लोग समझाते हो एक दूसरे को?
हाँ, एक दूसरे समझाते हैं कि मतलब कभी कभी हो जाता है, नहीं हो पाता है, नहीं बन पाते क्वेश्चन, पर कोशिश करनी है बस।
तो यू वांट टू बिकम एन इंजीनियर? तो आपको IIT क्रैक करना है या इंजीनियर बनना है?
IIT क्रैक करूँगी।
IIT क्रैक करना है, तो मतलब कोचिंग IIT क्रैक करने के लिए, मतलब सिर्फ इंजीनियर बनने के लिए नहीं है। IIT में कहाँ जाना चाहती हैं?
IIT बॉम्बे।
IIT बॉम्बे। क्या पढ़ना चाहती हैं?
कंप्यूटर साइंस।
कंप्यूटर साइंस। तो मोस्टली बच्चे CSE पढ़ना चाहते हैं और बॉम्बे ही जाना चाहते हैं। तो मान लीजिए इफ़ यू डोंट गेट बॉम्बे, व्हाट इज़ द नेक्स्ट स्टेप?
IIT दिल्ली।
IIT दिल्ली। और मान लीजिए वो भी नहीं होता है तो
खड़गपुर, IIT रुड़की, बहुत से ऑप्शन है। तो
वो रैंक पे डिपेंड करता है ना। मान लीजिए IIT नहीं होता है तो फिर इज देयर व्हाट इज योर प्लान बी? डू यू हैव अ प्लान बी?
NIT से, BTech से, मतलब IIT के लिए बहुत से ऑप्शन है। IIT सब कुछ नहीं है।
अच्छा, सो यू नो दैट्स वेरी गुड।
थोड़ा अध्यात्म। राजस्थान के जो कोचिंग संचालक है बहुत पैसे वाले, मैं मान गया, लेकिन वो अपने पैसे के दम पर बच्चों को तंग नहीं कर सकते। ये कोचिंग संचालक सावधान हो जाए, इनकी कोचिंग खाली हो जाएंगे। और मैं माँ बाप से भी कहूंगा, इन कोचिंगों से बच्चे आगे नहीं बढ़ रहे। बच्चे तो आपके पढ़ने में होशियार है, वैसे ही आप इन कोचिंग वालों को पैसे भी देते हो और वो अब आपके बच्चों को थ्रेट करते हैं, परेशान करते हैं। और ये तय बात है, क्या राइट है उस कोचिंग वाले को एग्जाम लेने का? कौन है ये कोचिंग वाले? हर दूसरे तीसरे दिन एग्जाम लेते हैं, उससे बदतमीजी करते हैं। क्लास में मैंने पता कर लिया, उसको डिमोरलाइज करते हैं। तो बच्चा क्या करता है कि बच्चा बहुत कोमल होता है। अरे भाई जान है तो जान है। जब बच्चे को आपका बच्चा इतना प्यारा बच्चा है, आप उसको परेशान कर रहे हैं। मैं आपको बता दूं, हम पढ़ रहे थे तब कोई कोचिंग नहीं थे क्या? तब IAS IPS नहीं बन रहे थे, तब डॉक्टर नहीं बन रहे थे। आज से भी अच्छे नंबर भी ला रहे थे, बन भी रहे थे सारे के सारे लोग। ये कोचिंग कोई रास्ता नहीं, कोचिंगों ने ये माफिया खड़ा हो गया।
नौजवान जो अपनी जान देता है सबके लिए दुखदाई होता है। और ये जो कोचिंग सेंटर का मामला जो चला है, इसके बारे में पूरे देश में विचार करना पड़ेगा कि लोग इतने अपने बच्चों पे इतनी आशाएं लाद देते, अपने आप को माता पिता कर्ज में डुबो लेते हैं। बच्चा वहां जाता है, अकेला होता है, उस पे एक तो पढ़ाई का प्रेशर होता है, दूसरा इस बात का प्रेशर होता है कि मेरे माता पिता ने अपने आप को कर्ज में डुबो लिया। वो प्रेशर सहन करने के लिए वहां अकेला होता है। तो इस व्यवस्था पे ही पुनर्विचार करना चाहिए। केंद्र सरकार को चाहिए कि कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट्स के बारे में एक नीति बनाए, किसी को अपने बच्चों को पढ़ाने के लिए कम से कम कर्ज नहीं लेना पड़े, क्योंकि ये एक बहुत बड़ा प्रेशर होता है कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट से पढ़ने वाले बच्चों पे कि हम अगर कुछ नहीं बन पाए तो हमारे माता पिता क्या करें।
एक्चुअली में सुसाइड के बारे में सोचना बाप है और करना माँ बाप है, इसलिए इनकी काउंसलिंग होनी चाहिए समय समय पर। साइकेट्री के डॉक्टरों से उनको बताना चाहिए। और सरकार ने भी जैसे कहा 2 महीने से पहले टेस्ट वेस्ट नहीं हो, तनाव नहीं हो, बच्चों तनाव कम करने का।
Shifting focus now to some breaking news coming in. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has now tweeted out, this is after the decision that was taken by the Union Cabinet to slash the rates of LPG cylinders, both for beneficiaries of the Ujjwala scheme and for non-subsidy beneficiaries as well. A 200 rupee rate cut has come to the fore. The Prime Minister taking to Twitter, going on to say, and I quote, रक्षाबंधन के पर्व अपने परिवार में खुशियां बढ़ाने का दिन होता है। गैस की कीमतों में कटौती होने से मेरे परिवार की बहनों को सहूलियत बढ़ेगी और उनके जीवन में आराम होगा, उनका जीवन आसान होगा, is what the Prime Minister has now come out and tweeted. That's the tweet that you see on your screens of the Prime Minister. Remember, politics has already erupted over this. The opposition says this is all timed to elections. The Prime Minister, though, they're coming out and lauding this decision that has been taken for the many women of this country. Aman Sharma, my colleague, joining us, getting us more details of this. Aman, this decision was in the making for a long time, is what the government says, that elections have nothing to do with it. It is just that the decision has now come to the fore, but the decision in itself, the announcement has now come to the fore, but the decision in itself wasn't a spur of the moment one.
See, the price of LPG cylinder has been bothering the government. If we put it in context, the LPG cylinder used to cost about 550 rupees exactly 3 years ago. Over the last 3 years, there's been a steady increase in the LPG cylinder price due to various issues. There have been global issues. There have been the high, because we also import maximum LPG. So in a way, it was also dependent on global prices, but the price had reached 1103 rupees. It was something which was bothering the top levels in the government. And so the announcement today coming that 200 rupee cut for everybody, and for, in fact, the PM Ujjwala beneficiaries, about 10 crore families are there. They will get a gas cylinder now at rupees 700 instead of rupees 900 earlier. Everybody else gets it at 900 rupees instead of 1100. So in a way, also if you see the PM's tweet, he says the reduction in gas prices will increase the comfort of the sisters in my family. So clearly the BJP also trying to woo the woman voter which has also been a strong votary of the BJP and the Modi government in the past. But in the recent state elections, be it in Himachal or be it in Karnataka, there was a feeling and there was this feedback coming from the ground to the BJP that maybe the woman voter is not very happy because of the high LPG price, and that played as one of the reasons maybe why BJP lost the Karnataka elections as well as the Himachal Pradesh elections. Now we have 4 more key state elections coming up later this year, and this move comes just a few months before that. Obviously, the government is saying it has nothing to do with politics, but surely this move is done in a way that it will benefit the BJP in the coming election, and the blow of inflation on the common man has been softened to a great extent by this move of the Prime Minister of giving a 200 rupee rebate in the LPG price.
Absolutely. The underlying political ramifications is something that one can see and is there for everyone to see, which is why we're seeing that kind of politics that erupt. But for the moment, Aman, thank you so much for putting that in perspective for us and getting us the latest. Even as that political fight peaks, we're now shifting focus to more breaking news that's coming in. CNN News 18 has now spoken to the Indian men's relay team. This comes at a time when the Congress and many others had politicized the win of the of the achievement of the performance that we saw at the World Athletics Championships by our Indian men's relay team. Religion was mixed into their achievement, something that the sportspersons have also now come out and said should not be done. Listen in to that exclusive conversation with my colleague Shivani.
Every athlete dreams of the kind of attention that the men's 4x400 meter relay team is getting right now, and it's my pleasure to be speaking to Anas, Ajmal, Amol and Rajesh Ramesh, who have done India proud, finishing 5th at the World Championship. So the 5th fastest team on the planet right now. But what really caught everyone's imagination was that heat by which you qualified briefly ahead of USA. And there was even that nudge that became a bit of a controversy. The referral didn't go India's way. But how was the experience for you?
Actually, this is a wonderful experience like ever we done in our sports career, because we run for a life like that, because we want to do something over there. We want to do good time over there. So we did it that.
But इससे पहले आपकी expectation थी कि आप इतने आगे तक आ सकते हैं?
Yeah,
you expected this result?
We expected, we going for their run for the time, and the position.
Okay.
So we did that. Yeah, that's.
कुछ लोगों ने politicians ने बोला है कि ये इंडिया की पहचान है, आप हिंदू, मुस्लिम, क्रिश्चियन सब एक टीम में हैं. क्या आपको लगता है कि इसके बारे में बात करनी चाहिए या नहीं करनी चाहिए?
स्पोर्ट्स मैम, स्पोर्ट्स को इन सबसे दूर रखे तो अच्छा ही है.
जी बिल्कुल. मैं इसीलिए आपसे पूछ रही हूँ क्योंकि रिएक्शंस आए हैं पॉलिटिशियंस की तरफ से और उन्होंने बात करी है इस बारे में, लेकिन आप तो यही चाहेंगे कि इस बारे में कभी आपके दिमाग में तो कभी नहीं आया होगा ना.
हम साथ में रहते हैं, वी आर अ फैमिली, तो हम ये नहीं देखते हिंदू है मुस्लिम है, नहीं, वो भाई है.
क्या कह रहे हैं?
We respect each other.
We respect each other. बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
We hope our politicians hear that message loud and clear. On that note, time for a quick break here on this edition of Nation at 5. Back in just a few minutes. Do stay tuned with us.
Brought to you by
Affair that Chinese ministry does, and they come out with certain territorial map of China so that they can have geographical exploration of those locations. But at the same time, these maps are always controversial because they do claim other sovereign territories of other nations as the part of Chinese mainland. Today, the map that we are discussing has been released yesterday on Monday by the Chinese government, and it clearly shows Arunachal Pradesh as part of China, Taiwan as an integral part of mainland China. It also shows 9-dash line in South China Sea as part of Chinese extended territorial territory in the sea, and that is something that is not going to go down well with the countries that Chinese territorial conflict has been. In South China Sea, we are going to see the disputed claims from the Vietnam, Philippines, Brunei, and Malaysia also, who have had claims over those territory that China is claiming its own now. We have seen Arunachal Pradesh has always been part of India, and Chinese claim on Arunachal Pradesh as an extended territory of South China, of South Tibet, has always been rebuffed by the External Affairs Ministry. In fact, recently also when China had released some villages and claimed that these villages, which has been developed and are part of the extended territory, that was that claim was refuted by India. Also, China had renamed certain places in Arunachal Pradesh, claiming that Arunachal Pradesh belongs to the Chinese side. So it has been a practice, or you can say a statecraft of the Chinese side, that they always create a disputed territory along its border with other countries. It is the case with Japan also, where the Senkaku Island has been a disputed territory, and China has always claimed that island with the Chinese side. And probably this is the aggressive Chinese posture that has always been, a thing of concern wherever Chinese, territory is goes along with other countries.
Abhishek, now when it comes to this, can we also expect India to respond, or is it likely that this will be ignored?
There will be, of course, a response, but there has been always a standard reply that Chinese claims does not mean that these lands will belong to Chinese side, because de facto position is that there is a Indian government, there is Indian territory, there are religious people of Indian nationality living. The territorial claim and exploration of all the revenues are being deposited in the Indian treasury. So clearly, those territory belongs to India, no matter how much claims China does, and no matter how many villages China tries to change names of. But it also tells the kind of aggressive posting that China will continue to have on the issues of territorial claims in Arunachal Pradesh and Aksai Chin and other parts of other sides of its border. And this is a concern, because when you talk about rules-based order, when you talk about respect to sovereignty and territorial integrity of other nations, that clearly China is a nation which does not want to do that. It does not want a mutual respect for the boundaries and the sovereign territory of each other, and it wants to create a kind of dispute over the territory that we have already been seeing in what is happening in Western Ladakh. That has also been the reason why China-India bilateral ties have gone downwards. And we were hoping that after the meeting of Prime Minister Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Africa's Johannesburg, there would be some improvement in the bilateral ties. But with the latest map that also shows Arunachal Pradesh as part of China, it doesn't look like China has been in mood of having a mutual respect or an improvement of bilateral ties with India.
Now, doesn't this also mean that the meeting, when it comes to the one that took place at the BRICS summit on the sidelines of it between China's President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi, one very big important point that came out from that was the fact that Prime Minister Modi emphasized the fact that there will be no normal ties between the two nations until the situation at the border is normal. Now, China releasing this map after that, how exactly does this bode for ties between the two nations?
You see, Aisha, we are talking about in Western Ladakh, we are talking about a territory which was still not very marked well. It was, both the sides have some sort of agreement or some sort of agreement that there were some perception, some difference of perception, because the actual line of control has not been marked ever since the independence of India. But in the case of Arunachal Pradesh, there is no difference of perception. It is clearly a land that belongs to India, and India has a sovereign right over it. And China, with repeated claims on certain parts of Arunachal Pradesh and saying that it is an extended territory of South Tibet, is something that it wants to keep, dispute.
Welcome back. You're watching Nation at 5, and the crisis in our neighborhood continues. Pakistan is reeling under severe economic crisis. We've seen the kind of inflation that it has seen. Unemployment is on the rise. The people of Pakistan are suffering. Protests are breaking out in different parts of the country. There's no electricity, and when there is electricity, the bill is through the roof. The people of Pakistan are fed up. Now there is a caretaker government that is in place. Elections are due in the country. But is there any respite that is in store for the citizens of Pakistan? Listen in to what they had to say.
दोबारा समाप्त फरमाएं कि हुकूमत की जानिब से जो बिजली के बिल्लात में नाजायज इजाफा किया जा रहा है, डिस्ट्रिक्ट बार एसोसिएशन, अंजुमन ताजरान और मीरपुर की तमाम सियासी और मजहबी जमातों ने मिलकर ये फैसला किया है कि अब सिर्फ बात से इनके साथ कोई भी मामला तय नहीं किया जाएगा। अगस्त में आने वाले तमाम तर बिल्लात, चाहे वो दुकानों के हों या घरों के हों या कि मसाजिद और मदारस के हों, वो जमा नहीं करवाए जाएंगे।
5000 रुपया का किश्त देने पड़े आपको, फिर मैं दूंगा नहीं तो मैं कल कितना था, गरीब आदमी 500 रुपया कमाने वाला बंदा, मेरे हाथ च बिल आ गया, बिल आके पड़ो इन्हें देखो, ये 12000 का बिल, मैं गरीब आदमी कितों करूंगा। हुकूमत पंजाब गरीबां ते तरस खा गरीब बिल तो तंग ने रोटी तो तंग ने खुदा दा वास्ता साडे हाल ते रहम करो गरीबां नूं जी लैण दो बड़े गरीब तंग ने
That's all we could pack in for you in this edition of Nation at 5. But thank you so much for tuning in. It's a wrap from my side. Tossing over to my colleague Anusha with Viewpoint.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're watching Viewpoint. I'm Anusha Soni. The latest maps released by China are clearly meant to provoke. The latest edition of official maps released by China for national and international consumption show Arunachal Pradesh, the Indian state, as Chinese territory. Not just that, Aksai Chin, Taiwan are also shown as parts of People's Republic of China. Using maps to rake up nationalistic sentiments within China has been a tried and tested strategy